What's up, you guys? It's PhiDX. I'm supposed to be recording this video from home, but I'm on my trip back from the UK. I was at the Red Bull Gaming Sphere live streaming the Red Bull Golden Letters event on site. It was an amazing tournament. I had a great time, but my flight back was delayed 3 hours, which turned my 3-hour layover into a 0-hour layover. So I was getting off the plane, trying to sort that on my phone, and I had a little moment, so I decided to open Twitter. And what I found was an absolute dumpster fire. Now, maybe you're like me and you can't read Japanese, so I translated this. Genmaji Temple dropped, as with the Heihachi patch, but this map DLC, the stage, is not included in the playable character Year 1 pass. So I didn't see this tweet first. I saw Roman Jelly's tweet, where he said, not including the new stage for the season pass holders and paywalling it for $5 is a scummy move. Unbelievably disappointed, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And I was kind of shocked, right? You guys will know in my previous videos, I tend to give the developers the benefit of the doubt. I really think game development is extremely challenging. I think the task of balancing a fighting game is insanely hard when you have to take into account professional livelihoods, casual players, player retention, business needs, tons of those things. So I have a lot of empathy for game developers, and I express that a lot. I get a lot of hate for it, but that's my honest take. So this really surprised me. So I dug into it a bit. What I want to do before we fully get lost in this video is listed below. I want to tell you what's happening, tell you everything that's going on, kind of clarify my positions on the Tekken team and Bandai Namco as a whole. And then I want to talk about the balance side of things, right? We'll do a patch note rundown on top of this. So what's the drama? What's going on? Why are balance patches so infrequent? Why are we dealing with Dragunov? Why are we dealing with Nina for so long? Why is Yoshimitsu untouched, right? People have tons of complaints. I want to talk about that. And then we'll actually go through the specifics of version 1.08 and what you need to get out of that. There's a lot of system changes, bug fixes, and then there's some important changes. I try to boil it down for you as quickly as possible. Okay, so this new stage is paid. Even if you have the season pass, even if you bought the $100 Ultimate Deluxe Edition, all those things, those are two separate editions. I just don't remember which. You have to pay for the stage, and it feels really weird. It feels really weird, even though, as Koenji says, the season pass is technically a character pass. I think people kind of overlook to that because in the past, especially in Tekken 7, characters and stages were bundled together if you had the season pass. Yes, you could buy them separately, but when you buy a season pass, it's kind of understood by past behavior that it came together. And this was the case with Lydia as well. It was not the case that it came with the season pass. What they did is they released Lydia and the free update with the stage at the same time. Now, yes, technically they're not breaking anything they said. It just feels kind of quietly underhanded, kind of like how they didn't announce the Tekken shop and the battle pass and things like that, and people released it after the fact. So other creators like Rip, again, trying to give benefit of the doubt, like maybe the stage isn't there because it isn't early access. That was actually my first thought when I came off the plane, and I asked Roman Jelly, like, is it because we're in the early access period for the Ultimate Edition, and then maybe when Heihachi drops, the stage will drop? But no, as you can remember, there was an official tweet from the Tekken project that says the DLC is not included, right? So this is intentional. And a lot of people are expressing, rightfully so, their distaste with this. You know, my take, if you don't use Twitter, this is what I'm saying, is that the team has expressed that they want Tekken 8 to be like a live service long-term game. They want it to have constant updates. They want it to be around for a while. They want to build a solid base where they can keep providing Tekken and a lot of excitement through this. And Tekken, for me, is one of the most powerful 3D fighting game franchises out there, right? Tons of people love Soul Calibur. Tons of people love Virtua Fighter. But when I talk to friends and family, especially my friends and family don't really play games, right? So when they see Tekken, they have an easier time watching it and seeing what's going on and understanding it compared to, say, Street Fighter or Guilty Gear or Uni or Dragon Ball, you know? It's a very viewable fighting game. And because of the depth for competitors, because of the accessibility for viewers, it's always been one of my favorites as well. I grew up with this game. People will say that I am selling out in tons of ways, and hopefully this video will clarify that I really believe honestly in giving the actual development team, the people on the ground, the benefit of the doubt, understanding that game development in the modern age is very, very difficult. But also it feels like the higher ups in all of these game companies are making they're putting their developers in horrible situations, whether they're laying them off, whether they're like not well staffed. It's so hard to know what's going on because it's behind closed doors. But I tend to lean on the side of the people actually making the games, the people on the ground in the code, because they obviously care about it, right? How I feel about this change is it damages the Tekken reputation. I just went off about how much I love this series. It feels so short-sighted. Tons of people think of Tekken. Like, even when I was talking about Tekken 8, if I go around the street in like a small town, people might remember like the arcade days of Tekken 3. I'll tell them a new Tekken came out. They're interested in trying it. How are we going to get people to try the game now when the reputation that's going around is that there are tons of questionable monetization practices going around, right? The player base is already small, the community is already angry, and word travels fast. It's only gonna, like, it doesn't take many Steam reviews for it to suddenly become mixed, and you read those reviews and it's all going to talk about the monetization. There are tons of games people can play now. Why would they pick Tekken? It's getting harder and harder to answer that question in a positive way. And this is, I think, kind of reflective of that state. Yes, this is during Terry's release. This is before Heihachi came out. But these are the Twitch numbers for Tekken 8 versus Street Fighter 6. If I'm not live, like I appreciate the audience a lot. This is not a statement of arrogance, right? This is an appreciation of how far I've been able to go. But if I'm not live, these are the numbers. If I go live, it'll maybe be like 2,000 viewers, right? It's not a colossal jump, but Tekken won't get many viewers unless a big streamer comes down to visit. Whereas I think it could be so possible that we would have a robust Tekken scene. So what kind of things do we need to do that? Well, a lot of people talk about updates. Maybe if you update the game more, balance the game more people will play. And I actually do kind of agree with that. But I want to kind of walk through why I have cut the development team some slack. Again, the Tekken team. Because I feel that they are doing a lot of things with good intentions, and the mistakes being made are indicative of other issues. So let's go through that right now. First, I want to go through the whole patch history of Tekken 8. Well, mostly the whole patch history, starting with version 1.02. The game released January 29th or 30th, right? So this is February 29th. This is a month later. We got version 2. A month later, we got version 3. And the pattern continues. Nearly every month, there's a new update, right? There was a bit of a gap in August. You'll see there's no August one because that's a intense month, like post Evo, things like that. There's a lot of evaluation going on. And then now we're in version 1.08. So nearly monthly updates. But as you know, not all of them have balance patch updates. The thing is, this was made very clear early on. And on top of that, this game is currently in the what we would call the vanilla Tekken stage. Back in Tekken 6, back in Tekken 7, so for the past like 20 years, these games have gone through a period of arcade testing where they don't release a console version of the game. Tekken 7 was the first one to come to PC. They instead do arcade location tests, get player feedback, and then adjust the game with their hands on it. What Tekken 8 has done differently is they've skipped the vanilla period, released the game, and decided to run a Tekken World Tour, a worldwide tournament circuit with careers and a lot of money on the line. And I think the conflict of all of these things has put the development team in a very difficult spot. So what I want to do is just talk a bit about what they've said in their patches. How have they talked about balancing the game? In version 1.03, continuing from 1.02, focus was placed on unintended move behavior. So you remember, this is the March patch. So 2 months out, they have said that we're focusing mostly on fixing unintended move behavior, not making balanced decisions. Work on update focus on the battle system balance is underway, but we are undertaking this with utmost caution by carefully evaluating user play data collected from around the world. Version 1.04 is scheduled for release in May following the conclusion of EVO Japan 2024. So I really support this decision making from the development team, right? They understood that there is a big worldwide tournament coming out. Pro players in a game as deep as Tekken cannot develop any kind of reasonably deep or interesting strategy without time to sit with the game. Even in EVO Japan, Eddie Gordo released, and he was cheesing people with basic strings that would not work now, right? Basic mid-high strings. People didn't know. They were getting day one Tekken noobed in an EVO tournament. So I actually support this decision making. I am a big fan of, I like frequent updates to a game, but I'm a fan of less patches and letting people sit with the game, develop tech, understand what every character can do, really push the characters to their limits. That's how you get the really cool character specialists on stage doing all unique combos and things like that, is if you give them time. Super Smash Bros. Melee, still making discoveries. They don't even play on the most recent patch, the European PAL patch. They play on NTSC, which is, I think, their 1.02. PAL, I think, is 1.03. Somebody in the comments can correct me. But they are still discovering things about that game because the system is so deep. And a Tekken is a game with a deep system. I could rant about that forever, but I believe in minimalism when it comes to patching, unless there's egregious stuff. We'll get to that. This is the 1.04 patch notes. So this came out May 8th, right? In the scheduled release of 1.04 on May 8th and the planned release of 1.05 in June, gradual balance adjustments will be made to address the following issues. So this and the next patch, 4 and 5, were kind of the big ones, okay? They wanted to address 3 key things, and I talked about this in the patch notes reviews, so I'm not going to go too deep, but they want to bring up characters who have not fully exhibited their unique characteristics and strengths. So they buffed like Yoshimitsu, they buffed Zafina, tons of other characters as well. Characters with disproportionately strong moves or high combo damage would be brought down. And then number 3, situations where one player dominates the attack, making it difficult to use defensive techniques, will be adjusted. So if you think the game is really bad for 50-50s now, it used to be way worse. Heat Dash used to induce a wall crush at the wall, and you'd have a true mix-up where even sometimes you couldn't low parry their moves because they had so much plus frames, okay? So 1.04 focused on the strengthening of less represented characters that didn't show their identities, and nerfed characters who had too many strong moves. So they also acknowledged that they missed some characters in 1.04 and would come back to them later. So this was kind of the first big patch. Then the next one was 1.05, which we call the defense patch. They did tons and tons of changes to the system. It felt like the new game of Tekken started here, especially because you could do things like sidestep Heat Burst reliably, right? Heat Burst no longer had a superior armor to regular armor. Tons of changes in 1.05. That is what I consider the start of the next phase of Tekken. I wouldn't quite call it the console release, but I would call it, if we were to draw a line between vanilla Tekken and the next version, it would be there, 1.05. And then they said, we made a bunch of changes. There will not be many more in Season 1. At a surface level, I agree with this. Because Esports World Cup was going to happen, EVO was going to happen, and the Tekken World Tour Finals, they want people to develop their understanding of Tekken, of the current game, and compete on that version, right? So for pro players and serious competitors, yes, things have probably gotten dry when you watch tournaments and see Dragunov 50 times in a row, but this ensures more competitive integrity. The fact that the development team cares about that is a really big deal. There are development teams who do not care about their pro scene, who do not like their pro scene. And in the past, Namco has made changes kind of reflecting that kind of idea. But it's clear that the team under Nakatsu is trying hard to consider the needs of everybody. And I think that deserves a lot of credit. I think that really, really deserves a lot of credit. All right. We'll get to the full patch notes rundown soon. I just want you to bear with me and understand the context where I'm coming from, right? 1.06, they say they're not going to do balance updates. Instead, they're going to focus on addressing issues. 1.07, same thing, stabilizing things, fixing bugs. Now, 1.08... and they mentioned that they're planning some stuff for Dragunov and Nina, right? So now we're here. We're here at 1.08. And it's time to look at what they were thinking. I think we can continue the discussion on the developers and the Tekken team after. But I will say that just the fact that we get open communication with them, not just the Tekken talks, because Riot Games does similar stuff, but the fact that they actually can be tagged on Twitter, you can Tekken8 report, they're watching the release of tech from prominent character specialists when they make these changes. They don't fully acknowledge it, but there are a lot of shadow nerfs or shadow buffs that give quality of life changes to the character specialists. So they're listening, and I really, really think that's a big deal, right? Compare that to like Microsoft, where the higher ups don't even know what's happening with their game. Right? And I can't say Bandai Namco is any different. In fact, because of the new map practice, I almost think it's not very different. But the team on the ground is listening. The people actually working on the game, putting their like crunch hours in, sleeping at the office, things like that to get these things done, they're listening. The reason I insist on being so pro dev team is because that's a privilege. And I think they are trying, and even if they make mistakes and whiff, that line of communication is only there until it's gone. Once it's gone, I don't think that's coming back. So if you disagree with me, if you think I'm a shill, things like that, I can't change your mind. But if you were on the fence about why I'm so adamant in being pro dev team, it's because of that. I think the dudes on the ground are trying their best. They're studying actual karate to make sure Heihachi's animations look good. They don't have to do that. You look at NRS animations, they don't have to do that. Have you seen the Flash throw a punch in Injustice? Anyways, let's look at patch 1.08. Thank you for sticking along with the ravings of a jet-lagged streamer who is coming back from the UK. All right, patch notes rundown. Let's take a look. Oh my goodness, I can't change tabs very easily. I'm holding the mic. I didn't bring my mic stand. This is the one time I don't bring the mic stand. All right, I've put in the notes below the key changes to look for. I won't read over everything, but you can kind of assume that if I skipped something, I didn't think it was important. If you think it's important, let me know in the comments. But so far, I'm pretty sure that I focused on what was really important. So system changes, I covered a lot of these in my previous patch review video based on the Tekken talk. Some stuff they didn't mention there that is here is heat engaging throws. Because you can't heat dash out of it, they want you to still feel some reward. So they're buffing these to replenish the heat meter, and they've listed the characters here. Azucena has a crouch throw. She has a Liberator crouch throw. Dragonov has a crouch throw. Yeah, Dragonov needed more buffs. He has this fake snake edge throw. Eddie has these crouching throws. He has a handstand throw. And then Jack 8's crouching throw and Gamma Howl throw. These all restore heat when they land it. King has this, but because it already happens in heat state, they just didn't change anything. Thank goodness. There were also a general change to some general change. It's not a general change. Specific changes to some throws, which they didn't mention, where when you break their throw, the distance between the characters is increased. So this prevented situations where they could throw you near a wall, you break the throw, and then an attack could be unavoidable after. So positive change for stability and things like that. And that's the thing. The game has so many jank hitboxes that people have complained about since Tekken 7. They're slowly fixing those. So along the lines of listening, that's a big deal. Key charge is consumed when a throw hits, so you can't throw somebody and then still counter hit them after. That's a nerf to key charging, which I think is a good thing because some characters really benefit from key charge more than others if they have like counter hit launching lows, for example. Certain behaviors on airborne hit. The input timing has been adjusted to correct an issue where performing a wake-up kick or side roll after certain attacks will accidentally make you tech roll. So when Asuka does her punch spike during Naniwa Gusto, her install, or when Yoshimitsu does his big charge up sword spike, there was a glitch apparently where you could sometimes accidentally do a tech roll instead of doing a get up kick. So they fixed that. There's a bunch of practice mode changes that I went through in my previous patch review. They've enhanced the move list to make it easier to navigate, which I think is fantastic. And then they made some stage changes and sound effect and voice changes. So let's get into the actual character changes. Relevant ones, I think Devil Jin has gotten a lot of really nice changes. Just scrolling back a bit, Asuka's forward 1+2, her armor elbow, it used to evade some stuff, and they didn't like that. I didn't like that as a Steve player because I want to punch the armor and then do like a back sway. So they've changed things like that. And that's kind of the flavor of this whole patch is big hitbox and hurtbox issues are being addressed. Anyways, back to Devil Jin. You can hold back after Heat Smash to avoid going into stance. And they also gave him a perfect electric. So let's clarify once and for all, okay? And a Wind God Fist is if you crouch dash and press the 2 button, right? No electricity. An electric Wind God Fist is when you do it the just frame. So you hit down and down forward. You hit down forward and the right punch button within like a 2-3 frame window. I don't know how lenient it is in Tekken 8, but it's not a true frame perfect input. It's just close, right? Or maybe it is on the same frame, down and down forward. I'm not sure. Somebody can correct me. I've been doing electrics for so long that I've completely forgotten how difficult it is. But I do know that the perfect electric is hard. The forward and then down forward 2 at the same time. right? Skipping the down input and just hitting down 2. That is much harder. That is much harder. It used to be a Kazuya-specific technique because he had a missed step where you tap forward and he actually steps sideways. So his was unique. They gave it to Reina as well because they gave her a misstep. With the release of Heihachi, they have given Devil Jin and Heihachi this same thing. What this means is the electric can be executed 1 frame faster. So if you're a Devil Jin player, Momodog on Twitter has said that he can now do a 13 frame electric from crouching, and he could do a 14 frame electric from standing. So this is a buff. It's an execution type buff. I have mixed opinions on it because I think it was cool being Kazuya specific, but they've decided to make all of the traditional Mishimas have it. So that's a good change for Mishima players. Dragonov, minor slap on the wrist nerfs, if we're going to be honest. Back 4-2 and back 4-3 have had their damages reduced, but they're talking about wanting in the next patch to look at changing opponent like behavior on hit. So maybe the heat dash combo will get nerfed off back 4-3 or something. Maybe the tracking will get nerfed. But for now, they've just gone with damage down. 5 damage off of the back 4-2, just the second hit, and then 4 damage off the second hit of back 4-3. This is effectively nothing. Those damage numbers are generally significant, but it's the second hit only. And yeah, I don't think it's that important. And then QCF4, God Move, if you've ever watched Ulsan play, there's a video coming out actually where he was commentating with me at Red Bull Golden Letters, and he just said, just QCF4, just QCF4. So they've reduced the damage by 5 and reduced the chip damage on block. They've already increased the pushback because it has so many plus frames, but it's still such a good move. It still hits grounded. This move is still going to be insane. So looking forward to the next changes after that. So when you look at these like Brian, Eddie, Asuka changes, there's a lot of things you'll see over and over again. Like the hitbox becomes more reliable, your hurtbox gets expanded so you can't dodge things as easily, and then the second hit of 2-hit strings will track better. So Eddie has that change as well. Feng Wei, the biggest change is that his Heat Smash now transitions into stance closer to the opponent, so it's harder for them to backdash out of his follow-up offense. And then he has that, again, second hit tracking buff just when the first attack connects. So the move should just be more reliable and work as intended. Again, I think these are good changes. Hwoarang has been buffed. His while standing 3 now gives a guaranteed follow-up. I believe he can heat burst to get a full combo, which is a pretty big change. They're doing this because they nerfed his down 3-4, his main low, and it makes it so that it's always easier to launch punish. So they're giving him compensatory buffs constantly. Other change is his Lightning Halberd, his left flamingo 4-3 is buffed. When you blue sparked it, it was +6. If you didn't, it was -2. It was harder to blue spark than his other moves, but this is what it looks like. It's this move. It's the Baek Dusan move from Tekken Tag 2. And I think even Tekken 6 and Tekken 5. So they buffed Lightning Halberd. Now it's always the same plus frames. I'm assuming the blue spark just increases damage now. But yeah, so big buff to Hwoarang. Let's see. Page 3. Jack 8. Again, you could see expanding hitbox around the main body to alleviate whiffing at close range. And then there's a unique change where Jack and I think the Bears had, if they did this input as part of their like low sweep attacks, they couldn't low parry. So they've fixed that. Again, quality of life changes. I really, aside from the balanced direction, I like the game approach the developers are taking of fixing things that weren't working, because we went in Tekken 7 for years without these things being fixed. Jin standing 4 damage nerf in the air. I don't think that matters very much. June has had some nerfs on like the tracking of her heat smash, her second heat smash, and then unintended hitting of people behind her, which is a crazy thing to talk about. Lars 111 now wall splats. That's a crazy buff. Lars players are gonna love that, and they can mash buttons even more. I wish I liked Lars, man. If he had his counter hit down forward 2 from Tekken 6 and Tekken Tag 2, I would play him. Martial Law 1-1 bug where specific input prevented the opponent from crouching to avoid the second hit has been fixed. I thought that was intentional, but maybe now you can always duck the second hit of 1-1 unless it counter hits or regular hits. That's an interesting change. If Law has less access to just spamming 1-1, that's a nerf. That's a big nerf, because 1-1-1 is huge for him. A launching 10-frame heat dash combo, right? And then running 3, they changed the jump status. They gave him more airborne frames so he doesn't get hit by lows while he's in the air, which is good. A running move that jumps probably shouldn't get hit by lows. That just makes sense. Lee, his heat smash is no longer launch punishable. It's not -15, it's now -14, unless you use the new Mishima Perfect Electric. highly specific situation, but worth noting. And then he's had the hitbox on his down 3 extended upward. So it prevents the attack from missing, but they've also increased his hurtbox so he doesn't dodge moves as egregiously. League players get away with so much nonsense dodging moves. I think this is nice. This is totally nice. More hitbox and hurtbox changes. There was a weird grounded state thing with Lydia. Nina, tons of nerfs, you would think. -2 damage on up forward 3, -1 damage on up forward 4, and QCF 1 loses 2 damage. So I think in a combo, she maybe loses like 3 damage because the scaling is already going crazy. This is effectively nothing. This is effectively nothing. Down by 3 +4. They took away her cross up. So this is a big deal. I didn't write this down. I didn't see it at first. So her, I don't know what the move is called. Geyser Cannon, I think. She had a situation, and Jod is kind of famous for this, I think, because he has so much technical Nina stuff. A French Nina player, he would do Nina's down back 3 +4, her like launching kick where she like bends down and kicks up. He would run behind you, and when you tech rolled, this would hit you from the rear and relaunch you. So it looks like they've taken out that cross up. I think we talked about the removal of cross ups and things like that before. I'm not a big fan of removing cool, unique tech like that, but their vision of a reliable Tekken is what they're trying to implement. That's actually one of the things I have criticized the dev for team for consistently, is removing unique tech like that involves a lot of exploration and character specific knowledge to deal with. They're already giving like stance mix-ups and move list bloat that people have to deal with, which feels kind of like homework. I think there's a lot of hype in like people digging into the game systems and making some really cool niche discoveries that you don't see until like a big tournament. I think that's cool. Like, it's gimmick is maybe one way to put it, but the ones that reward study and work and like encourage discussion, like think of like the old internet days with forums and things like that. Like, I think that is what that reminds me of, and I am sad they're taking that out. They fixed her while rising. She does like a knee, and it will transition to an attack throw. It didn't work off axis. They're fixing some of that. There are tons of characters with issues with that off axis stuff. Like Lars's counter hit back 4. When he knees you, if you're off axis, sometimes he won't grab you and choke you. Steve's back 1 might not counter hit launch you if you're slightly off axis. So I think they should fix that for everybody. But Nina's was an attack throw. Theirs is a counter hit, so it's different. Last page, Paul's deep dive gets even more buffs, 10 more damage for his deep dive down forward 2-1. That's crazy. And then his grounded stomp punch, I believe, is what this down back 2 is. And it's just to make it more reliable if the opponent's side rolling. So, or down back 2, I think, is the scoop up. Either way, it's his ability to attack somebody side rolling is improved. Okay, Raven has gotten a huge change. His forward 4 is now a 15 frame launcher, right? It does an instant tornado on hit, but one of Raven's weaknesses is that he couldn't launch like a rage art, for example. They wanted to give him the ability to punish properly because he doesn't have as many counterattack abilities. I'm not sure what they mean by not having counterattack opportunities, because if you've ever fought a Raven player, all they do is crouch and do while rising 2, the 14 frame safe counter hit launching elbow, or they do their universal parry to get out of situations, and then they start throwing clones at you and stuff, or they do like their low poke into a parry. I don't know what they meant by having limited counterattack opportunities. I don't know what they meant by imposing risk on the opponent's offense, because he already has a 10 frame like counter hit string 1 2 4. He already has instant while rising 2. Yes, you had to hit Raven. That was the main way to contain him, because he's a mix-up machine. You're not supposed to, like, you're supposed to have to hit him. So to give these things, I don't think drastically changes that, but a 15 frame launcher is definitely a welcome buff for many people, I can imagine. All right, happy for you Raven players. I will continue to talk shit, but it's because I think you guys can be better. There's some really good Raven players out there. Like, I've played Pina, I've played Hayes. Love those guys. Raven players, man. We'll have a conversation about that later. And then the hitbox of his heat smash has been extended. I think there were some issues where he would say Hellfire and then nothing would happen, even though it looked like it would hit. Shaheen balance direction. The second hit of down back 3-4 could not be blocked after the first hit connected from the side. Okay, so it's a nerf. Shaheen has had some of these issues where if he hits you from the side, he could guarantee more hits. He had like this face stab that he could keep doing, but they're taking those out. Steve, they didn't say it's a nerf, but I think it's a nerf. That's my bias. It's a bug fix, right? He would do the unblockable high out of Lionheart, and sometimes if your opponent ducked it, their punish wouldn't reach. Now they're just making sure it reaches more often. He also had a Sonic Fang cross up. I don't know if that's what this is addressing, but he could finish his wall combo, dash at you, and then hit 1+2, and it would hit you from the back if you tech rolled. I think they may have taken that out. It doesn't say nerf though, so I'm confused. Victor back 1-2, his counter hit confirm string. Similar to the Fang change and other characters, the second hit has better tracking only if the first hit hits. So it's to increase the reliability of this move behaving as intended. Xiaoyu gets direct buffs where her combos are more reliable with back turn 1-2, and then her back turn throws are returned to homing. So when they did the defense patch and took away homing throws, Xiaoyu players were complaining that the back turn throw is really hard to use now. And I actually kind of agreed because she jumps forward, so you could just do a small sidestep and dodge it. Now she could jump forward, grab you, and it's homing. What's dumb about this back turn throw is if she cancels it, you duck as if she threw and then try to launch her. She can do a counter hit launcher herself that hits you first. So it's a weird situation where even if you study the defense, the best thing to do is kind of do nothing. You duck the throw, fuzzy, and then back up, or do a quick down jab or something. It's a weird, strong situation. Xiaoyu is pretty good. All right, and then Yoshimitsu, high character in contention. The mains will defend him till their last breath. The haters will say that he deserves to be bottom one. I am somewhere in the middle where I want to play this character, so I want him to be good, but I can also acknowledge that he's very, very strong. So what they've done is they've nerfed the spin by doubling the damage he takes. So he normally takes 4 and then 5 damage, and then I assume it's 5 per subsequent spin. I'm not sure. But now it's 8 and 10. That's a huge amount of damage. So Yoshi is going to be able to spin less per game. He's going to have to consider it more, and Yoshis might kill themselves more trying to spin. In exchange, they've buffed his Indian stance again. So they've already buffed it before where he could do his 3 slide 4 input, where you like hit 3-4 like really fast. He could do that from Indian stance by hitting 3+4. They made it a homing move. Now he's able to attack out of Indian stance even faster. So they're trying to make that stance in particular more powerful. Now, given that Yoshi has powerful stances like the Dragonfly stance, he has like the Flea stance, he has Dragonfly is like the helicopter one. They didn't buff those. They're buffing the Indian stance because apparently they want him sitting on the ground doing this more often. I don't know what the design philosophy is. So yeah, so if you've gone through all of my patch note changes before, you'll know that my general perspective, let me just put up some gameplay or something. My general perspective on how the development team handles things is mixed, right? On one hand, I think that their intentions and their philosophy of approaching the game is so good. Right? Like they want to stabilize the game. They don't want to overpatch it. They don't want to make knee-jerk reaction patches. These things I'm all a fan of. What they kind of missed the mark on is like the design philosophy. Like people disagree with making Tekken 8 such a stance-heavy game. They disagree with making Tekken 8 a game focused on these like big mix-ups, like reducing the defensive play. These are all, I think, kind of matters of taste. I still think Tekken 8 has a lot of depth, and I've talked about this a lot on Twitter, where for someone like Ulsan to get first place in like 4 to 5 tournaments almost in a row, like major tournaments, that requires skill. Even if the game has increased volatility and like gambling mechanics, that level of consistency implies that he has found a way to play this game to tame that volatility. So even though the game is crazy, there is a skillful way to manage that. And that, I think, is very compelling as he circles his lever aggressively on the camera. Right. So regardless of the game taste, right, you have developers who are talking to the players. They are being conservative with their changes because they want the players to have time to sit with the game, and they are communicating these things. So those are things I all really commend. Right? Those are things I really, really commend. There are some dumbass tweets. If you guys have seen it, they'll be like, at Harada, fix this. It's like it's like they are exposing themselves to the bottom of the barrel in order to maintain an open communication to try to make their game better. I think that's commendable. They told stories about how during like the earthquakes in 2011, they were sleeping at the office, and because the earthquake happened, they couldn't get back home. These guys care about making a good game. The mistakes they make in terms of like not adequately like nerfing Dragonov or over buffing Dragonov or over buffing certain characters, giving Xiaoyu offensive mix-ups. These are faults that I think come from either not playing other fighting games, not playing other video games, not having a lot of like high-level advisors on the team. Those are different things, but they're definitely trying to make a good game, and I think that's commendable, right? How many people these days are making games where it's just another cash grab? FIFA 49 with the same graphics from FIFA 20, right? You know what I mean? Like, let's be so real. These guys are trying to make a good game. They're making mistakes along the way. Where I'm less likely to give leniency is these business practices that we opened the video talking about. There's been rumors that because of the failures of other Bandai Namco IP, they are pushing more monetization on Tekken 8 because it's one of these successful IPs, right? One thing I didn't mention, by the way, is we still haven't talked about pluggers and cheaters and things like that. Japan has mentioned legal things with that. We have to understand that the Japanese regulation system and corporate system is so different from ours. I don't know it enough in detail to talk about that specifically, but I think that's a big issue. When they say that's an issue, I'm inclined to believe them, again, because of the amount of work they actually are putting into the game. Okay, little side tangent. But when it comes to the monetization, yeah, there's rumors that failed Bandai Namco IP are pushing more monetization options into Tekken, ones that the Tekken team doesn't seem very excited to talk about, ones that they don't necessarily like promote as much as possible compared to the game features they're working on, whether that's PR awareness, whether that's, which I don't think it is, or kind of just a lack of personal passion on it. I get this sense that there are needs from above that are pushing these practices on the team. It feels like there's a divide between how much the team wants to work on the game, build cool martial arts like moments and characters and movements, compared to charging $5 for a map when they just released a free one. And now they've said that the story mode stuff is very expensive to make. What feels kind of slimy to me is that, like, yes, you could have just charged $5 or whatever for a story mode DLC, but maybe they thought that people wouldn't buy a story mode DLC, so they would buy a stage and that could be used to fund the DLC instead. I don't know any of the rationales. This is all speculation, but yeah, man, it feels bad. Like, I am the kind of person, I'm like always on the edge of being a gacha game victim, right? I spend tons of money on games, or I used to. I try not to anymore. And I'm like a Tekken coin buyer, I'm like a battle pass buyer, things like that. But I am hesitant to buy this stage. When I play online, I'm gonna roll it like 1 out of 15 times, and I have to pay just to roll that stage. Like, I'm not going to as many tournaments as before, so I don't really need to practice on that stage. It's just not a very enticing practice when I've already bought the Ultimate Edition, when I've already bought costumes, things like that. I get that these things take money to develop, and I've actually been the most, I think, empathetic towards Bandai Namco or the development team. Let me clarify. The actual Tekken development team, I've been more empathetic to them needing to spend money to do things. Like, even back in Tekken 7 when they charged for frame data, I recognize that was really controversial, but it's a feature that they had to build UI for. They had to do things like that. The Tekken team is small, you guys. Nakatsu, the guy directing the entire like gameplay side of it, has to make the character trailers himself. Does that not seem a little weird? Like, the team must be extremely tiny. So to me, it's hard to fault them from any of these things. But it's easy for me to kind of be like, what is corporate asking for? Why are they demanding these insane business practices that are very clearly unpopular? And I'm going to leave the gameplay for just 2 seconds just to remind you, like, this is kind of the state of my Tekken world. There are probably plenty of people still enjoying the game in lobbies with friends, on console. Maybe they're not watching streams if they're playing the game. The Steam charts are still pretty decent from what I've seen. But this is the state of my Tekken world. And when I think of how much benefit of the doubt I give to the Tekken team themselves, when I think about how Tekken has been a part of my life for so long, this business practice, this what I believe to be a corporate business practice, is I'm not happy about it either. So I've also been blamed, like they said me shilling before, I mean like commenters have like said that me shilling before has enabled this behavior. Anyways, I hope this video was helpful. I know it's a bit of a somber note, but hopefully you got the information you were looking for from the patch notes. Let me know in the comments if you think this is a good format. I try not to talk about drama in a very biased way, but in this case, I feel like I have a very personal stake in it, and I try to give information where I can. So we went through the patch notes. Let me know if I was wrong about anything. Let me know if anything needs clarification, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.